With the beginning of World War I, the Fat Controller decided that all of the engines must be painted in black. Due to the war, Henry had to be completely unused, as with his small firebox, he wouldn't be very good at anything. Once the war had ended, a certain Wilbert Vere Awdry published a book called The Free Railway Engines. Henry was pulling a train when he had crashed, and so this was the perfect time to fix all of his steaming issues, and he came back with a brand new shape later that year. In 1946, the second book of the railway series, Thomas the Tank Engine, had been published, and this was by far the most popular of them all. Skip ahead to 1948, and the Sodor China Clay Company had opened. They were very inspired by the designs of Alfred and Judy and wanted some of their own. So, with the Port of Pearl Company, he built two of them just for them. These engines were called Bill and Ben. In 1951, the Hat family went to East Anglia, where they met a nice steam tram in his coach. However, while they were on holiday, the three big engines went on strike, and Thomas got in trouble with a policeman. So the Fat Controller decided to buy an engine in a workshop whose name was Percy. And he decided to also buy the steam tram and coach, Toby, while they were there as well. So later that year, James crashed into some tar tankers, which gave Toby the opportunity to get a repaint, gaining blue cowcatchers and side plates. While pulling a train, a landslide fell. Luckily, Mrs. Kindly had saved Thomas, and to show their gratitude, the Fat Controller decided to rename their trains on the Farquhar branch to the Kindly Express, which is still called that to this day. Now, heading into 1952, Gordon made a foolish mistake and crashed into a ditch. It was only till later that year that Edward had to take a runaway James and successfully stopped him. Later, Thomas crashed into a mine, and after going past a danger sign, and it was Gordon who brought him out. And to end the year, the engines all thought it would be time to thank Mrs. Kindly after a whole year since her bravery, and threw a whole party just for her. In 1953, the Queen decided to visit the island of Sodor with her little tour around. It was also till later that year that Sir Charles Topham Hatt became controller of the railway. 1955, Percy was sent to work on the Farquhar branch line with Thomas and Toby, and to replace him at station pilot, the Fat Controller ordered Duck, a 57 plus pannier tank engine from the Great Western Railway. Of course his real name is Montague, but he far prefers to go by Duck. In 1956, great changes were made. The Fat Controller received a letter. For my birthday, the only thing I want is for Thomas and all his friends to come to London Station so that I could meet them. Signed, Tiddity. The Fat Controller, of course, had to do something about this, so he told all of his engines to get together so he could explain it. All of them chose to go, and so while they were away, engines from the mainland came to do their work. While Thomas was showing one of them around, this being Ginty, he crashed into a brick wall. They would have left him behind, but since the girls specifically requested Thomas and his friends, they had to bring him as well. Of course, they all made it safely there. In 1957, City of Truro decided to make a water stop to Sodor, and this was where Duck met him. And City of Truro still sees Duck as one of the most polite engines he's ever met. Later that year, both the Northwestern and Skarloey railways were given diesel engines that they were forced to put on trial. Whereas the Skarloey got it well, we already know what happened to the Northwestern. So let's skip into the next year, shall we? In 1959, the Fat Controller ordered a 652 class number 57646, but to his shock, two arrived. These engines called themselves Donald and Douglas and accidentally lost their numbers. And after a lot of mishaps and a deputation, the Fat Controller decided to keep both of them, even repainting them blue. Starting a new decade, in 1960, some awful, irresponsible person, who was actually a sabotager, decided to leave Thomas's regulator open, causing him to crash into the station master's house. Of course, since he was gone, the Fat Controller decided to loan an engine from the mainland, who was called Daisy. It was of course the only one he could get. He would rather have a steam engine, but Daisy was just the best option. By the end, the Fat Controller decided to keep Daisy after he realized that she really was sorry for what she had done. And Thomas came back with a brand new flat running board. In 1962, Stepney decided to visit the island of Sodor for a special trip. British Railways also loaned the Northwestern two diesel engines, these being D261 and once again, diesel. By the end, a lot of confusion and delay happened, with only one proving himself and the other two didn't. In 1965, BoCo came to the Fat Controller's railway, where after a prank with Bill and Ben, he decided to stay on Sodor. One cold old night, Edward was tasked with pulling the train until crack! He burst open with steam lashing out. He was in pieces, he was falling apart, but he decided that he'd make it home on one axle or burst. And he made it home. In 1968, Gordon had finally found out that all of his brothers on the mainland had been scrapped. And so to cheer him up, the Fat Controller brought the Flying Scotsman to come and help Gordon with his trauma and to be photographed. Also during that same time, two diesels were again loaned to the railway, these being D199 and D7101. After an incident with the two and Henry coming in to save the day, Sir Topham Hatt did eventually decide to keep D7101, who they then called Bear. One dark night Douglas was going to the other railway when he spotted Oliver, an engine, who would go all the way to escape to Sodor. Douglas, remembering his own position, decided to save Oliver, and he was eventually painted up into a brand new Great Western green, even sharing a branch line with Doc. In 1969, Mavis was purchased, and in this AU, she is owned by the Fat Controller. It's probably also important to mention that the Sodor Ironworks opened and obtained their second and third engines. In 1972, Wilbert Awdry published his final book, Tramway Engines. In 1975, the Northwestern obtained Callum, and later Bloomer. The Sodor and Mainland engine was found in a shed and was put to use again. In 1976, the China clay pits collapsed, and Bill and Ben, for saving everyone, were told heroes. In 1983, Christopher Awdry published his first book, Really Useful Engines. 1984, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt became controller. Also, in October of that year, a very certain Thomas and Gordon premiered on TV, cementing Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends as a legacy. Later, also in October, Brendam Docks gained a train called Cranky, who on his first day fell twice. Later, Kurt Ronan Station was built, and Gordon crashed through it. To end that year off, Oliver crashed into an old abandoned house, which turned out to be somewhere along Toby's old line, which was of course renamed to Oliver Mansion. In 1990, the Fat Controller acquired Salty to work at the quarry. However, he was later moved to the docks, of course. The Sodor Rescue Company acquired Harvey, and the year ended with "Hi Gordon, bye Gordon." In 1991, Emily was purchased, and after she saved Oliver from being crushed by Callum, she was given 2 brand new coaches. Later, Henry fell sick after a long time of being good, and Emily helped him. Later, the Fat Controller acquired Arthur, who on his first day lost his spotless record, but he did gain the fishing village. Then Murdoch was purchased, and a fun fact, Murdoch is the only engine on Sodor whose IQ is known. After that, Spencer, who was newly purchased by the Duke and Duchess of Boxford, got stuck up the hill. Thomas decided to have one final race with Bertie, where Bertie won, but all the children agreed that Thomas deserved the medal.